Good afternoon. It's really great to see so many of you here in this session as well. My name is Ben Schneider. Now here I'm in my role not as the moderator, you might have seen me. I'm here to talk a little bit more about the topic of transition to SAP Cloud ALM, and especially as this is the overview session of the whole track on this event, Transition to Cloud ALM, where we have 6 sessions ongoing in that whole track. I'd like to share some overall insights on what you need to know. So this is more or less a collection of information which I tried to provide for you, or try to provide for you, the things you need to know, you need to think about when you plan your transition, resources you will find, or where to go to find some resources, and some other information. So this is sort of the starting point of that whole track. One session already has happened. That was just before here, the customer session with Freudenberg. So that was also very inspiring to see how they did already their transition to Cloud ALM. And now we are starting with the overview. The other 4 sessions in that track are happening tomorrow. So if you're interested in more details, and I'm going to refer to that during my presentation, which session you need to go to if you're interested in more details, because again, that's the overview session here, so I'm not going into the details, and I'll refer to the detailed sessions tomorrow when there's more information on various topics. So what would I like to share with you today? I've got a very short agenda. So basically, how to plan your transition. I want to share some insights or some things you maybe need to think of when planning your transition to Cloud ALM. The second topic, I'd like to talk a little bit about what can you take with you when you go from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM. So topics of, let's say, data migration, so to speak. What's there, what can you do, what can't you do as well. And last but not least, how do you get there? So what do you get from SAP? What's the offerings we give to you, or we plan to give? What's the roadmap? What are the tools? Which services are there? And so on. So that's basically just the structure. I think we'll have enough time for questions afterwards, if there are any. So I'll hope to leave some time. If we go over time, I think you know that already, I'll be around here or I'll be downstairs to answer more questions. So let's get started. Well, planning your transition. And when building this deck some weeks ago, when collecting the slides, I tried to keep it simple, just to highlight the most important things which you need to know. And if you have followed us, or if you maybe have also been at some of our events, like our roadshows or our monthly calls, which we do, you might have already heard that the first starting point in assessing of what you need to do when moving from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM should always be the readiness check. When we talk about the readiness check, we talk about the SAP readiness check for SAP Cloud ALM. I'm emphasizing that because there are different readiness checks out there, also the one for S4. That's a different one here. So we have a specific readiness check for SAP Cloud ALM, or for the transition from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM, and that should be always the start. Before you even start with the readiness check, I want to share one first resource with you, and that's the Transition Center. And the Transition Center, that's not an official branding or a product or something, it's just a collection of websites on the SAP support portal, and on these websites we try to provide, I want to say, everything we know about the transition, and this is constantly evolving and constantly being updated. So the Transition Center in SAP support portal should be, or can be, the first place to go to look to, where you'll find all the information about the transition. And what you can find on the Transition Center, I would like to show you on a short live demo. So let's just have a quick look into the Transition Center itself. So I can directly show you what's on there. So, well, I said that already, you have to go to the support portal. I'm going to start from the very beginning. So if you just go to support.sap.com, maybe I'm zooming out a little bit so you can see a little more of the screen. You all know that, I'm pretty sure. We have the ALM menu on top. That's our home space in the support portal. That's where we provide all the information about ALM. And this whole area is also maintained by my team, so we really try to keep that updated. We try to keep that structured as much as possible. If you have been here, maybe haven't been there for a long time, you might see a little change. We reduced the information we have there on Solution Manager. The focus is now clearly on Cloud ALM, as it is the strategy, and of course also on SAP Focused Run. The Transition Center, which I want to show you, which I'm talking about right now, you'll find as the, I don't want to say leftover entry, but as the single entry in Solution Manager. So that's where you would go. It's moved to SAP Cloud ALM, and that's the Transition Center, what I'm talking about. And I would just like to give you a quick overview what you find there if you haven't been here. So what we find at the starting point is exactly the recording from the session I did last year on this event. So I need to update that as soon as we have the recordings from this event here in a few weeks. Then we share some information, and this is all something I want to go a little bit more into detail in a few minutes on how you do that, but that's just the information which we share, what the sequence can be for your transition. Start with operations, then look into implementation, and maybe add focused run if you need or if you like. And behind those blue buttons, you'll find more detailed pages. I'm not going to go there right now, but you'll find more detailed pages with information on these steps. And then if you scroll further down, there's another section behind that. Maybe let's go there for a second. We try to find some examples for typical customer situations. And of course, these are examples, so you might find yourself in one of these or you might not. But we try to do some very, very common activities. We try to collect them and write them down. So what's going on? What do you have to think about if you're on premise, if you still mainly on premise? What do you have to do if you want to implement? And if you then click on that, it opens up and you will find more information. And this is always structured at the same by the same way. You'll find your situation today, that's the example. What could be the situation in the near future? We chose 2028 because Solution Manager mainstream maintenance, as you hopefully all know, ends at the 31st of December 2027. And what can be the recommended next steps? And this is just like high-level information, and maybe let's just look on some other information. And maybe you find yourself here, if you're on-premise, focus beyond 27. What's your situation today? What is the situation 28? And what could be the next step? So this is just one example where we try to, on a very high level, that's fully clear, but we try to combine or to collect some information on typical situations and what could be possible next steps. Then if we scroll down a little further, and this is a question I'm getting asked fairly often. Hey, do you have some sort of comparison? Solman, Cloud ALM, so functional things, what goes where? And again, this is high-level information. So what we just wrote down here is, you see the Solution Manager scenario on the left side. Maybe let's just zoom in a little more so you can read that. And you see the Cloud ALM. It's just the name of the activity or the capability in Cloud ALM. On the right-hand side, we added some information, if necessary, what you maybe need to know about or what you need to think of when looking at that. You'll find some information just on what goes where, and then again, behind that Learn More link, you'll be taken to another page where there's a little more information on more details. And this is for implementation, for operations. In operations, there's a little more context sometimes, just so you get some information already here. And we have that comparison, so service availability management goes to business service management and so on. I think you get the idea. That's pretty straightforward here. Further down, and I'm really, I'd like to show you also the bottom of the page, so maybe you're finding information you haven't seen. We also try to add some topics which we get asked on also a lot, but maybe they are not so obvious. So, for example, hey, what's with my early watch alert? What with the landscape management? What with system recommendations? So these topics, also ALM topics in a way, but maybe not so prominent. We try to provide some answers here. And then additionally, we try to provide some answers. We call them topics outside ALM, because from our perspective, this is not ALM, it's not the core of our thing, what we do, but these are things maybe related to Solution Manager. For example, many customers run their central user administration on Solution Manager, but it's not a Solution Manager functionality, so this needs to be considered. So we also try to inform about this down here in that table. One information which is fairly new, which I'm getting asked a lot is, hey, what about maintenance certificates? Because Solution Manager helps you to distribute maintenance certificates in your landscape. And we will provide in 25 a new way how to do that, so you don't need Solution Manager for that anymore. Currently, we can't say more than what is on this page on that topic, but there will be more coming about the distribution of maintenance certificates. And then you'll find more information. Also here, very important, I'm going to come back to that. That's the readiness check, or that's the entry point to the readiness check. The blog post and some more information about that. And also a question we get asked quite a lot, but I'm coming back to that a little later, are some services which we offer, which you can consume also from SAP about helping you in the transition, and then finishing with some resources down here, like a very generic PDF, what about transition, the roadmap, some usage rights, and so on. So if you haven't seen that, if you would ask me, like in an elevator pitch type of thing, hey, where do you need to go if you want to learn anything about the transition? I would point you to that page, and from there you then can start really looking into more details and finding out what could be the next steps. So now back to my presentation, please. All right. Let me check a quick. Yes, that was the live demo. Absolutely right. Next step or next topic. I'm still in the area of what you need to know to plan and what you need to know to find out your next steps towards Cloud ALM. And the next step would be to understand your ALM footprint, which means if you're using Solution Manager, well, if not, you wouldn't be here because then it would not be a transition. If you're using Solution Manager, how can I find out what I'm actually using? Of course, you can ask your colleagues. The answers might be good, might be maybe sometimes we don't know, maybe somebody's doing things nobody knows. Well, all these happens. And then again, I already said that in the beginning, the readiness check, that would really be the starting point to really find out what's going on in Solution Manager. So the readiness check, to run that, you have to apply a note to Solution Manager, or I think it's also in the latest SP. You need to run the collectors, and then you'll find you need to upload that in the readiness dashboard, as it is with all the other readiness checks. And in the readiness check, you will then find information on the scenarios in Solution Manager, structured by our usual structuring, implementation, operations, and service. And you'll find information coming from the tool, coming from Solution Manager, from the usage data, what you are actually using or what your team is doing in Solution Manager. And this will be broken down into really, I think, also a great level of detail already. You can drill down further. If you think something is in use, but it's not lit up here for whatever reason, or if you want to just see the impact of a scenario, you can also switch it on manually, so it will be considered as well. And then the readiness check will show you how Solution Manager is being used. And what I personally really like, the readiness check is constantly evolving. It's being updated. We are working on that constantly. I know that can be sometimes a little bit annoying because, hey, I looked at it 4 weeks ago, I'm looking at it now, it looks totally different. Sorry for that. But on the other hand side, this is something I think very beneficial for us. We can update that, we can bring in new features which will help you and provide more information for you. And one topic I'm happy about, that this is now in there since a few, I don't know exactly, since quite not so long time, is that you also find information about the scope or the volume if you want to do a selective data transfer from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM. I'm going to come back to that topic in a few minutes, but what we will offer you in the near future is the possibility to provide tools to migrate your solution documentation or parts of it to Cloud ALM if you need that. And the readiness check will already today give you information about what is in Solution Manager, how many, I don't know, diagrams do you have in there, how many objects are in my libraries, how many, whatever, process steps are there, test steps, and so on. And that is, I think, really valuable information later, when we have that available, which you need to plan the transition, also to plan the selective data transfer from Solman to Cloud ALM. I will not go too much into detail on the readiness check here in this session because, as I said, that's an overview session. Tomorrow, there will be a dedicated session on the readiness check. Please check the app where that is and when that is. I'm not having that in my mind right now, but it's one of the 4 sessions tomorrow happening here on the event. So if you really want to know about the readiness check, please go to that session tomorrow. Just one more comment on the readiness check, because I just attended the session before where our customer Freudenberg group talked about their journey from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM together with their partner Ridon IT. And what they did, they started with the readiness check, which I like because that's what also our recommendation is. And then after some initial analysis and looking on what's going on, and they took some time, and of course these things sometimes take a little time, they revisited the readiness check, and I think that was a good thing to do, because then, as I said, there was some more information in there which was helpful to them to plan the transition accordingly. So this sometimes just needs to be checked, and from the feedback we get, at least, I think this is a very helpful tool. From the recommendation I would like to provide, this is the starting point of, let's say, almost every transition project in Solution Manager to Cloud ALM. Now to sort of complete your plan for your transition. What could be another activity, or what could be other activities you need to follow? One thing which also is coming very soon is the so-called Activate methodology roadmap, transition to Cloud ALM. I don't know if this will be the final name, but what a team, a neighboring team, has done over the last year and is close to finishing and close to publishing is that we created an Activate roadmap for your transition project to Cloud ALM. And this is fully following the Activate methodology, which means you will get all the information in the structured way you might know from Activate. You're getting templates, you're getting project plans, you're getting a lot of accelerators, you're getting examples on how to structure your project, how to set it up, how the work streams should be named or should be set up, and also what else you need to think about or think of or considering when planning your transition. So this is also not available yet. It should be available hopefully soon. Q4 was the target. I hope we get it either early in Q4 than late in Q4, but Q4 was the idea to have that. So that would be the full structure or the full information on how to structure your transition project. And this could be a help for many of you to use that as the basis based on the readiness check. Of course, the recommendation to use the readiness check is also in the methodology, but it will take you further. It will help you to put through that project. And one thing I just wanted to sort of write down, when planning or when finishing or completing your plan, please also consider, I said it here on the slide, things, some of the features in Solution Manager, I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second, they will maybe not go one by one to Cloud ALM. They might go somewhere else, in a sense that the functionality or the things you do with that in Solution Manager might go somewhere else, might be in the future, you might have to do them in another tool or vice versa. So I'm going to come back to that, but this is something you should at least keep in mind. I'm listing some of them here. Of course, as you know, Cloud ALM does not have ITSM capabilities, so this needs to be considered. If you're having ITSM in Solman, there needs to be a plan where this goes. The maintenance planner is always a question we get. Maintenance planner is technically not really a part of Solution Manager anymore. It's a cloud solution or a cloud tool like many others, so the maintenance planner will not change. It will just be the same as before. But of course, many people connect it to Solution Manager, or it's also, you can call it from there. SLD is a topic which we get a lot of questions. There's also a lot of quite new information on the Transition Center on SLD and what happens there. So if you're interested in those questions, if you have to need to know more about SLD and where that goes or what's happening here, I can again recommend you the Transition Center. From there we'll be taken to another page in the portal where my colleague from the SLD team, where they have written down what's going on with SLD. Early Watch, I already said, Early Watch is in the Early Watch Alert workspace, so that's also decoupled from Solman and nothing will change here. This is also, it will just be like it is today. System recommendations is a question we get a lot. System recommendations, if you don't know it, is a tool which, well, provides recommendations on SAP notes for specific categories for a specific system. This will go into or already is available in a new app called System Assistant. So that's also something sort of moving out from Solution Manager, if you would like to see it like that. But the functionality is still there, but it's happening in another tool. So to sort of summarize the planning, Look at the methodology once it's out, and look at the functionality you see from the readiness check, or you just know you're using, and check where this is going. What I would like to do now is a quick run through the scenarios of Solution Manager, so you get a quick understanding on where things go. That's basically the same I just showed you some minutes ago in the Transition Center. So I don't want to say I copy-pasted this table, but this is the same information. But for this session, just as an overview, I would like to run you through so you get a rough understanding where things go. We have requirements management in Solution Manager. We do support requirements management. It's without the S, in Cloud ALM. So if you want to collect requirements, you can do it in Cloud ALM. Project management. We had that huge cPro full-blown project management capability in Solution Manager. Project management is available in Cloud ALM, but it's much more embedded in the whole implementation activities. So yes, there is project management, but it's not like a separate application or separate capability. It is embedded into the whole activities you're doing when implementing a project. Process management, big topic in 7.2, of course, big renewal, lots of things going on. Yes, we do have process management in Cloud ALM. It's different how it works. It has another approach than in Solution Manager. And this is an area clearly in Cloud ALM where a lot of things are still happening. So, for example, libraries have just come or will come soon into Cloud ALM. Versioning will come, but the concept of solution documentation really is there, or process management, and it's also there in Cloud ALM. And additionally, we will provide selective data transfer in the very near future. We're already running the pilot project, and we will provide that as soon as possible to all of you. Sorry, my voice is leaving me, so I will need to have a little more water. Test suite in Solution Manager, test management in Cloud ALM. Manual testing, fully supported. Automated testing in Cloud ALM, you know all of that most likely, is Tricentis, where we embed the Tricentis test solution. Also here, selective data transfer will be possible for some aspects of the test suite. Change control management, or CHARM. Always the question, I think this is the most asked area here, what's going on here. We do provide change enablement, we do provide a release management, we do provide deployment orchestration already today in Cloud ALM. Yes, this is not the same level of detail, not the same workflow control, not the full complex features like retrofit are there yet. This is coming. This is one of the areas, again, where a lot of change is happening, where a lot of things are coming. If you want to know more about that, again, tomorrow there will be a session, especially on change management or change control management, how that goes, where goes what, how can you move, what do you need to consider. One information I just wanted to share here with you already is that we will not provide a migration of workflows or change documents. So this is another approach of moving, so the functionality is different in the target system or in Cloud ALM than in Solution Manager. Many features which are needed or requested will come, like the retrofit and other topics. But that's an area where also the recommendation is, if you are using change control right now, it depends on how deep you use it, how complex you set it up, if you already should move now or should wait a little longer before you move. IT service management, I already said that. Basically, we do not have ITSM in Cloud ALM, and as you also heard on Monday or Tuesday, sorry, in the Q&A round, we do not have any plans to provide ITSM capabilities in Cloud ALM itself. There's APIs, there's connectivities, but there will not be like a known standalone ITSM tool. Then we get often we get the question, what about Focus Build? And Focus Build, you know that it started as an add-on to Solution Manager. Now it's basically part of the core. Many people love it because it's providing, let's say, strict workflows and on all the process to implement projects in large scale. I would say the idea of Focus Build is already in Cloud ALM. The idea of having the possibility to structure a project, but at the same time, the idea of Focus Build also was to have this very strict process. You cannot go left or right, you take it or you don't. And we are also working on that, but I put various capabilities here on the slide because there will be various things coming to, let's say, bring Cloud ALM into a state, if you want, not necessarily, but if you want, to run it like Focused Run with more constraints, with a more controlled workflow. Because on the other hand side, yes, Cloud ALM is designed very openly. You don't need to do some things before you do other things in solution documentation, for example. So the idea of Focus Build will come into Cloud ALM. I'm not sure if there also was a session already on the event on that topic, or if it's still coming, but the idea will be there, and we will also add to that. To finish that, operations. Yeah, basically, I summarized it in one line. All the use cases in Solution Manager go to Cloud ALM. We don't do any data migration in the operations scenario. So that's also something you need to consider, or you might want to know when planning. And the idea of a transition when you do job monitoring in Solution Manager, and let me put that very simple, is to switch it on in Cloud ALM, to find out how it works, what it does, how it's running, and then to switch it off in Solution Manager. Yes, I know that sounds maybe a little more simple than it actually will be, but that's the idea. We don't do complex migration of 9-month-old monitoring data. That wouldn't make sense. From the use cases, I would say we are fairly complete in Cloud ALM for operations, and yes, some things are different because it's a different tool, but in the end, the monitoring use cases, in some of them, we are already, I would say, advanced than what we could ever do in Solution Manager. Some other topics we get, landscape management. Yes, we do have landscape management in Cloud ALM. There's some little bits and pieces around that. If you're on-premise, Maintenance Planner will continue to exist. SLD, I already said that, is part of NetWeaver. Technically, it's not a Solman topic. So there's more information on the portal what happens to SLD. And I already mentioned the maintenance certificates. We are planning the changes in the distribution of maintenance certificates for 25. So you don't need Solution Manager anymore for that. So you can do it in a different way. And then I just listed some additional topics which I'm getting asked frequently. There has been a lot of talk about regulated industries already here at this event, so I'm going to just mention that again. We plan to provide extended support, or not extended, that's the wrong word, but we try to provide functionalities, tooling and other things for regulated industries also for next year and ongoing. And if you're from the military or defense areas, then we also want to go into sovereign cloud. You heard that maybe in the keynote, so this will take more time. So sovereign cloud is not on our plate, if I remember correctly, before, I would say, 26. But that's the current answer we can give if you ask for this kind of location of Cloud ALM for defense use cases. So I thought I'm going to have a lot of time left because there's so little text on the slides, but actually I'm talking so much that I'm already almost running out of time. So let's look quickly into data migration. And I just wanted to share with you again some overview. What can you take with you? What can you bring? And there's two areas in Solution Manager where you can bring data, which is solution documentation and the test suite. And in solution documentation, I hope that's correct. Axel, let me know if I'm wrong here. That's process hierarchy, the libraries, not right now, but in the future, the process content and process elements. And from the test case, you will be able to move test steps and test cases from Focus Build. Again, that's very, very high level. And if you want to know more, please go to Axel's session tomorrow morning and learn more about the selective data transfer, how that works. It's a sort of step-by-step approach. You download stuff from Solution Manager, you can edit it if you like, if you need, and you upload it into Cloud ALM, and that's the idea, the basic idea. More details tomorrow in Axel's session on that. But yes, we do provide data migration options for some elements in Solution Manager to Cloud ALM. Again, which tools support the selective data transfer? I'm starting to repeat myself a little bit. The readiness check will share with you the information on the volume, on the scope of what you need or what you might want to bring. There's a nice e-learning to get to know the readiness check a little better, which are linked here on the slide. And with selective data transfer, you then really do the actual moving of data. Behind the link on the bottom, learn more here. That's just a jump to the portal again, where Axel and myself some weeks ago wrote down, let's say, an overview, but a little more detail than I'm doing it here on the selective data transfer of what you need to know. And then, in the end, well, do it. And I just wanted to provide some, again, general recommendations on how you get there. And I'm talking about this topic since, I don't know, maybe 2.5 to 3 years now, and we constantly evolved our messaging. We try to also detail our messaging while the tool is evolving and while our services and offerings are evolving. But the recommendations are still the same. And the first recommendation is most likely, of course, we know every situation, every customer situation might be different, but most likely the move from Solman to Cloud ALM is not a single big bang project. It might be a step-by-step approach or a phased approach. And that's also, in most cases, what our recommendation would be. Start with operations, start with the use cases, the monitoring use cases, look at the readiness check, what you're using, activate the functionality in Cloud ALM, look at the functionality, try to learn, try to understand how it's working, and then step-by-step sort of move your operations scenario to Cloud ALM. Of course, that doesn't need to be like afterwards, but maybe in parallel or maybe later, look at what you're doing in implementation. And in some cases, it might already be or have the possibility that you can use Cloud ALM for implementation today. It might help you. Or if you're having let's say an S4HANA Cloud project starting in November, why not use Cloud ALM for implementation already for that project? Because that's what it's been built for. It's ready for that. The content is there. The tools are there. Your team can start to learn, can start to look at the tool, and can start working with it. At the same time, if you have invested in solution documentation in Solman, if you are using Test Suite and so on, then do the assessment with the readiness check, maybe wait until the selective data transfer is available, and then start moving stuff from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM. So there will not be a single recommendation I can give you which will be relevant for all of you here in the room, obviously. So the idea really is assess what you have, look at the things you're doing, then get an understanding on where things go, what you need to know about the functionality. Maybe start by using Cloud ALM already for operations. Use the readiness check and the activate roadmap once it is available for the transition, to plan your transition, to set it up. And one thing which might sound maybe a little blunt, but I think it's important to at least have it in mind, is please explore the capabilities of Cloud ALM, or it's maybe a good advice to do so, to look into Cloud ALM, how it works, how the taxonomy is working, how the tools you want to use are working before you migrate your data in there, because that might save you some effort, because you then have an understanding. The project management looks like this, or the solution documentation that's the way it looks, it works, and that's the data I'm extracting from Solman. I'm moving it over, so I'm getting an understanding on where do I go and what should I sort of need to know before I really do the extraction. How can you get support? First of all, the Transition Center, I already shared that with you. The readiness check is there, and we offer services. So that's a very simple slide, which doesn't help you a lot right now because you're sitting there looking at it, but maybe when you take the slides with you, or they will be available, of course, in the app, the services we offer might also help you to define a roadmap for your own transition. So having said that, I'm 8 minutes before end, so we would have some time for Q&A. So, any questions in the room? There's one, Sven. Please throw, but don't throw too hard.
Let's have a walk. Long time.
Please put it
Long
close.
time playing cricket, but I catch it.
so good.
Please put it close to your mouth.
Can you hear me now?
Please a little closer.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So I have two questions. One regarding the end of mainstream maintenance. Now, if I remember the slide from last year, which was displayed at various sessions, the mainstream maintenance ends for operations. That means monitoring won't be supported post of 2027, but for the change management, which is CHARM, we would still get extended maintenance, which would be still some security patches or OSS support or SAP support on change management, CHARM particularly, because yes, we have that in mind and we have a backup already arranged for operations, let's say, in our context. And the second one would be, I see DVM, the DVM. So last year it was said it would be under SAP services, and there's a DVM app, available. So are we saying that this DVM functionality that we have today would be the DVM app is the successor of that, or it would be something else in SAP services? Because last year we were only told it would come under SAP services, but we were curious to look at it. And we have some use cases there active, and I would want to have some information there. So thank you very much.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the questions. Thanks especially for the first one, because that gives me the possibility to clarify something again. The mainstream maintenance of Solution Manager ends at December 31st, 2027. Full stop. You cannot buy or request extended maintenance for Solution Manager standalone. It's not possible. The whole maintenance frame or framework or maintenance topic, or however you would call that, of Solution Manager is fully following the maintenance strategy of the SAP Business Suite, which is SAP ECC/ERP6. It was announced, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, maybe even earlier, that the Business Suite, so that's the whole suite, you know that better than I do. That's the whole thing we had before S4. The Business Suite will leave mainstream maintenance at the end of 27, and you can get 3 years of extended maintenance for the Business Suite on an additional, I don't know, 2% or whatever. I'm not a sales and maintenance guy. And if you request extended maintenance for the Business Suite, which you then obviously still have, then Solution Manager will follow along. And you're right, Solution Manager will follow along in the implementation capabilities, which is test management, CHARM, solution documentation, ITSM. The operations part of Solution Manager will go in any case, even if you request extended maintenance for the Business Suite. In any case, operations will go into customer-specific maintenance at the 1st of January 2028. But you have to be very clear on that. You cannot request standalone extended maintenance for Solution Manager. It's only possible in conjunction if you have an ECC or a Business Suite. If you request extended maintenance for the Business Suite, then your Solution Manager will follow along. So that's hopefully the precise answer to that topic. Sorry, I can't hear your question if you don't talk to the microphone. Right, thank you.
What happens for customers who are not on ECC anymore? They're already on the transformation journey. They're already on S4. And then what happens when you say extended maintenance? I mean, for Solman, I don't think if that part's in the Business Suite. If you're already not on ECC.
If you do not have an ECC system?
Yeah, exactly, because you already moved to the S4.
Then Solution Manager will go into customer-specific maintenance on the 1st of January 2028. To your second question, I cannot provide a very detailed answer, unfortunately, with DVM. Currently, DVM, it's not a roadmap topic in Cloud ALM, so the DVM app you mentioned is the way to go right now for DVM. But there are discussions ongoing internally, which I'm not part of, but I'm aware of. So DVM might become a more closer topic to Cloud ALM, but right now the DVM app would be the way to go for data volume management. Any more questions? There's one over here, Sven. It's very soft. It will not break your glasses.
So thank you, and thank you for the presentation. But I know, everybody knows that ITSM will not continue. But in my company, we have a lot of VAR contracts with the customers. So we have 40 contracts like that, and with a lot of 6 countries differently. So what is the proposition for that? Because every year I have more than one certification with SAP with the PCOE, that because I have a lot of countries to do it, and ITSM is one of the best, one of the things that I have to check about that. And okay, there is a proposition for SAP for VAR will be end in some point. I don't know.
PCOE means you are a partner?
Yeah.
Yes. So as far as I know, the Solution Manager is not anymore mandatory for the PCE or PCOE certification. That has been taken out.
Okay.
I cannot provide a clear recommendation on what you need to do. The recommendation I can give, or the let's say outlook in the future I can give, is that there will not be an ITSM solution in Cloud ALM. So this needs to, sorry for that, this needs to go somewhere else, and that's the only thing how I can phrase it right now, because SAP, as far as I know, our portfolio, we do not offer a standalone ITSM solution, so there needs to be another option for that, where that needs to go.
Sorry, but second question. We saw in the first presentation, the first day, and that there will be a API with the backbone to create an incident. So that will be the way to make these VAR contracts to continue with that. We have another ITSM provide for a third part to create these incidents.
I would say yes. So the API, of course, then could be used. But there needs to be a solution on the other end, obviously, to have.
Yeah.
Yes.
For that, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Looking on time, we have time for one more question. If you have more questions, I'll be around. But there will be the Almathon, I think, here now. So I'm going to be downstairs in that room, not in the big room, but in the small room for some more questions. But one more question, we would have time for one more question right now. There doesn't seem to be any other questions. So thank you very much for joining, and enjoy the rest of the event.